Hello and welcome to the second video in this series on mindfulness that we're doing for the Tauranga Neighbourhood House as we all learn to navigate through this period of our lives of major upheaval and turmoil through the coronavirus and its living restrictions on us. We talk about mindfulness very much about coming to our senses, and today we're going to be talking about simple ways that we can apply mindfulness to our everyday activities that we otherwise might do a little bit on default mode without really noticing what we're doing. And an analogy for that is noticing how many times we drive the car from A to B and actually haven't noticed what we passed on the way. Or how many times might you have lost your keys, and really that's pointing to the fact that we weren't being very mindful when we put them down because we weren't consciously attending. And so we're trying to find activities that we can become more conscious in doing. And the coming to your senses is trying to connect your mind with your body with the five senses. And by doing that, you tend to bring yourself back into the present moment and away from distracting thoughts so that you are consciously present in the activities that you're undertaking. And I have noticed with this physical distancing, for example, that we're already behaving a lot more mindfully as a community. Because if you notice that every time that you pass somebody walking in the street or in the shop, how much you're more conscious of making sure that you're not only the distance away from them, but maybe having a little bit more of a connected interaction with that person through a smile or just some sort of acknowledgement. I'm finding that quite heartening. And I think the more we can do that, the more connected we will do as well. And I think that's really important at the moment. The other aspect is in, of course, washing our hands. Now, there's a lovely video on our Facebook page that I refer you to enjoy the instruction on how to wash your hands. But have you noticed that every time that you go to wash your hands, and that's more often, that you are more conscious in the process that you're doing in washing your hands? We could even take that a little bit more mindfully in terms of really tapping in to the smell of the soap and the touch of the hands, and consciously not only concentrating on how we're washing our hands, but enjoying the sensations of washing our hands. So simple everyday tasks that we can bring more consciousness to is what helps to make our lives much more mindful and much less distracted in things that have happened in the past or things that might happen in the future. So today we're going to be looking at 3 activities that we're all doing and seeing how we could apply more mindfulness to those activities. And hopefully, by practicing some of these techniques and ideas, you'll actually realise that you enjoy the activity a little bit more by being a little bit more consciously present. We're going to be looking at mindful eating, we're going to be looking at mindful walking, and we're going to be looking at mindful media absorption. So let's just start with eating. Let's just think how we normally do go about the business of eating. Often we're doing it in a rush, on the run, and often we don't actually really savour the taste of what we're eating, unless it's a particularly special meal that we've gone to the trouble of cooking and we really want to enjoy it. But normal day-to-day, everyday activity eating, sometimes breakfast is really done on the run. Not really enjoyed mindfully as maybe it should be. So, by introducing mindfulness to our eating as a matter of practice, first of all, I like to, as a matter of practice, in the main meal of the day particularly, just spend some time, just a minute, acknowledging the food on the plate and all of the inputs that have gone to enabling it to be there. And that includes the environment of the sun, the rain that has helped the plants to grow, the farmers that have picked the produce, the distributors and the shops, or maybe your own home garden growing. Just spending a minute to be connected with that interconnectedness of nature and people, I think can be really valuable. And then we get to the eating itself. Now, we've already talked about slowing down and not eating in such a rush. The other aspect is to also just take some time to enjoy the food in terms of your 5 senses, or as many senses as you can use. For instance, seeing the colours of the food on your plate, lots of variety of colours. Often wouldn't even notice. Savouring the smell and the feel of the food on the plate and the steam coming from the warm food if it is warm food. And then really taking some time to savour the taste of the food and each of the foods that you are eating. And to do this effectively, you might have to agree to have some silent time during your meals. You don't have to do it all. It's really up to you, however much you want to do it. But just allocate some time during the main meal of the day at least to eat silently with whoever you're sharing a meal with, so that you can all savour the taste a little bit more than we normally would. And that is all just introducing simple mindfulness techniques into one of our everyday activities that is really, really important in terms of improving the enjoyment of the food that we're eating. It also helps us to tune into the nutrition of the food that we're eating and making sure that we're making good choices with respect to nutrition. And at this particular time, it is really important just to be observant in terms of why you're eating, when you're eating. Just noticing if you're wanting to eat at funny times during the day, you might be looking for some comfort food. And it's just important to understand how much and why and when that you are eating particular foods, and making sure that you are getting a good serving of fruit and vegetables in amongst some of the other foods that we may be eating at the moment. The most important thing is to really listen to your body in terms of knowing when you've had enough and maybe when you've had too much of foods that maybe you shouldn't have had. And an example of that may be, having too much sugar at this time is probably not going to be helpful, particularly if you do suffer a little bit of anxiety. It may be making that worse. And so by being mindful of our eating, it helps us to tune into our body's reactions to the food that we're eating and how we feel. Now, of course, we are in the middle of Easter, and so these little things, the chocolate eggs, are very good ways to practice mindful eating so that you can enjoy unwrapping the wrapper and then savouring in the smell of the chocolate as you unwrap the wrapper, and then slowly putting the chocolate into your mouth and allowing it to melt and savour the taste of the chocolate. We often do these in our mindfulness workshops, and for those that don't eat chocolates, we often substitute a beautiful, juicy, fresh strawberry. So you can do it with anything like that as well. But just enjoy the experience of eating and just see what change it makes, and something that we can apply every day in our lives. Now, the next area that I wanted to cover was mindful walking. Now, this can be just walking from A to B to get from a place within the house, or to get to your car, or to go for some exercise. So in order to mindfully walk, we are asking you to ditch the iPhone, I'm afraid, because what we're again looking to do is helping you to tune into the senses that you're experiencing while you're walking. So first of all, just feeling the touch of your feet hitting the ground and noticing that sense of feeling grounded in the earth and the connection with the earth with every step that you take. That can be a really helpful mindful experience. And then if we're out walking in nature, there's every sense that you can tap into with that. You can notice a bit more about what you're seeing rather than head down, iPhone, listening to the music. Just noticing the majesty of the trees, noticing the different greens of the leaves that you can notice, and just appreciating the wealth of nature that you can see with your eyes. And noticing maybe the birds flitting around. None of them are affected by coronavirus, and they just are the wonderful mindful presence to bring you back to the present time. And it is really gratifying and helpful, particularly at this time, just to really focus on nature and understand the strength that nature survives through all the weather patterns that it gets thrown. Those trees are just fantastic reflection of strength. And I think as long as we tune into the senses while we're absorbing nature, we can absorb some of that strength to help us weather the current storm that we're in. So we've got seeing and we've got hearing. We can listen to the breeze or the wind, or we can listen to the birds. So tuning into the seeing and the hearing are two huge things that you can do while you're walking to bring yourself back to the present moment. Be really conscious of the experience of your walking. Of course, touch is also available to you. You can, if you come across a eucalypt leaf, and you can crush the leaf and maybe smell the oil that you can smell coming from the eucalypt leaf. You can touch, flowers, or touching a tree. You don't have to hug a tree. You can just touch a tree, and you'd be amazed what sort of power that can give you in terms of just that connection with nature. It's really beautiful. So there's any aspect that you can bring into your working activities. And as I said, whether it's walking within the house, walking from A to B, or going off on an exercise, these can all be done more mindfully. I particularly find when I'm feeling particularly tense, I tend to tell myself to just breathe deeply and keep putting one foot in front of the other. And I find that really helpful. Just little mindful tricks. And you can come up with your own and find your own. There's no one way to do this. I'm just giving you some ideas so that we can just become more consciously present in what we're doing and how we're doing it. Now, the last area I wanted to cover today was media absorption, and I think that's really important at this time, just to be more mindful in terms of how you're responding to what you're watching on the media or what you're listening to in the media. I know myself, when I just sensed myself getting totally overwhelmed by what I was hearing, I knew that I had had enough. And so it's again mindfully tuning into your body to understand where your point is, where you've had enough, and then to consciously make the effort to turn it off and go and do something more pleasant, more mindfully, something like a hobby, or just going out to walk in nature mindfully, to again bring yourself back to that present moment and help to overcome those overwhelming feelings that really are quite justified at the moment. It's not like we're trying to stop them, and it's not like we're trying to not acknowledge them. We know that they're going to be there, but we're trying to reduce the impact of them, and particularly we're trying to reduce any nature of the mind to go off into the future and exaggerate what might be happening in the future. At the moment, mindfulness is telling us we just have to be happy with the not knowing, and we have to be happy with the present moment of just accepting where we are in this present moment in the context of the coronavirus. So they're just 3 little activities or areas of our lives that I think that you can apply mindfulness to very, very easily. And the other aspect on top of all of that, of course, is dropping into your body, or really accessing the feelings of your body by consciously breathing. And that you can apply to particularly the walking, and even listening to the media. I find that if I am consciously breathing while I'm listening to the media, it helps to keep me in the present moment and helps to remove some of that exaggeration that can happen, and it just keeps me grounded. So you might find that helpful as well. So that'll be it for this video. What we'll also be posting this week is a mindful breathing exercise, which is just totally an exercise to get you consciously focused on your breathing. So I hope you find this video helpful and that you try the exercise of the breathing. And the breathing exercise is something that you can do along with these informal activities of your daily life, or as a formal meditation, which I'll introduce in the next video. So enjoy, have fun, and I will see you next time. Thanks.